Hi there, I'm Margaret Leuwen and welcome to Margaret Leuwen Quilting. Today I've got a whole bunch of stuff to share with you. First thing is, I cut my hair off. I decided enough was enough. I had it, I chopped it right off. In fact, it happened so fast that I called the hairdresser and a couple hours later I was in her chair and she was chopping it off. So we now have a short do. The first thing that I wanted to share with you is after I did my video that was, I think I called it Quilting Quilts. In there was a video that was in regards to a lot of handwork. I've done a lot of hand stitching in the past. In fact, I taught a class at a local quilt shop for over 2 years. So I've done a lot of stitching. In fact, I learned as a small child. Our next door neighbor taught my sisters and I how to do hand stitching. So it's something that I've done forever. In there, a lot of people asked me if I would be willing to teach hand stitching, and I was thrilled to pieces at the fact that anybody would even begin to ask me about hand stitching. So I got together with a local fabric designer. Her name is Michelle Palmer, and Michelle works for Red Rooster Fabrics. And you've seen some of her fabrics on this channel before. One of them was this. This is called Flow Blue Garden. Sorry, this one's called Flow Blue Garden. If I can make my words work today. And here's the inside of it. This is the Stash and Dash bag. So this was one of the fabric lines that she's done that you've seen. Well, I got together with Michelle, and she is an unbelievable fabric artist. So I'll put a link to her Etsy shop below. She designs fabric, and she designs note cards, and she designs calendars, all different stuff. She is mega talented. So anyhow, she and I got together, and her daughter, and we spent, well, so far we spent 2 full days together. We tend to email a lot back and forth. And we have come up with a project for you guys. And the project is using her brand new line. I'm checking my notes to make sure I tell you everything correctly. This is her brand new line, which is called Quilting Bee. This is a gorgeous tone-on-tone honeycomb. This is a beautiful, this is a dot, but it has green and blue, and it just is gorgeous. And here's a green that is the same type of print. And of course it's got a darker green and then a lighter green and almost an off-white, but it just is gorgeous. It's beautiful. And then there is this adorable fabric, which was really the leading piece of the line, and it's all bees. It's just adorable. And then an orange honeycomb. And I have to tell you, I'm getting more and more partial to oranges and peaches. I just think they lend so much color to things. But this is what I'm using for the project. I'm working on it. I'm gonna have the project completely done before I start showing it to you. Usually I show it to you and we work together. Well, this one I'm gonna get it completely done, then I'm gonna show you how to do it. So I'm working away on my parts, and Michelle has given me some gorgeous designs to work with. So we will be showing you some embroidery stuff really, really soon. So I'm gonna keep stitching, and you guys get ready. Those of you that wanna do it, get ready, and it won't be long and I'll be showing you some different stitches. Some of them are, let me look at my notes, what I've got going. I've got French knots going, I've got lazy daisies going, bullion loops going. Bullions are so easy to do and they look fantastic. So just a bunch of different ones to go. I am right now working on making sure that I can get kits. If you think you might possibly want a kit, please leave a message below, because I'm trying to figure out if I can or can't do it. I will keep it as reasonably priced as I can. It's a small wall hang, so it's about 40 inches square. So it's not going to be a ton of fabric. And I'm also trying to put together kits for the embroidery floss so that you can do that. I'm using organza and I am using pearl cottons. I'm only using Sue Spargo's threads at this point in time. So I'm working with them trying to figure out if I can kit this for you or not. So do leave a comment below if you think you might be interested in a kit. That way I can have some kind of a count of the number of people that are going to join in on this. So again, I'll put another snapshot of the fabric. So again, here's the fabric, and it is going to be an embroidery and quilting project. It is one quilt block that is repeated more than once, and then embroidery. And the embroidery has been designed in a way that you can do minimal embroidery or you can do a ton of embroidery. Either way you want to do it, it will work out, which is fantastic because you could do really what you want to with a project. So stay tuned because it's not going to be long, and I'm going to have this neat little project for you. So, all right, I'm going to now switch gears, and I am going to show you how I put together this project. This is the Stash and Dash fold over organizer. The pattern is by Annie, and I can never pronounce her last name. It's Annie, it starts with a U. It's patterns by Annie. Annie does a ton of different organizational products and just does a fantastic job. She has beyond wonderful directions. They're very easy to follow. This is the pattern and what it looks like. Okay. The back of it tells you exactly what it is that you need to do it. And here is my bag. The only thing I've got left to do is I need to hand bind it. Okay. So a couple things that I did on my bag that are different from Annie's pattern. Annie's bag called for a piece of vinyl on the back of it. Or I'll show you. Here's mine that has it on the back. And I haven't used it. I agree that it's a great idea, but I don't have a use for it. So I actually did not put it on the back of mine, but her instructions are great. So if you want to put it on the back of yours, go right ahead. And the other thing I didn't do was I haven't put the little fabric tabs on the back on the zipper pulls. And the reason why I haven't, it's two reasons. Number one, I did cut them out. In fact, they're sitting right here someplace. Oh, here they are. My pulls, okay? I didn't use them, and the reason why I haven't used them yet is I live in the upstate New York area, and there is a woman down in the Watkins Glen area that does a lot of glass beads and that type of thing. I want to see if I can potentially find a pretty glass one to go on it. And the other reason is these pull tabs are really big enough that I don't need that extra tab. I may end up making them up and hanging on to them, but as it stands right now, I'm not going to. So this is my bag. And a couple of the things that I love about this one, because I'll show you. This is my little sewing bag. I always keep a gray, a white, and an off-white thread in it. I always keep some needles and some Wonder Clips. Now, these Wonder Clips are the absolute nuts. They are wonderful. I will put a link below to where you can get them, but they just are great, especially when you're sewing this type of pattern. It is great to just hang on to things, and it keeps everything really flat because the back side of the clip is flat. So they are great clips. Anytime you do this kind of project, I would suggest that you try really hard to get a hold of some of these and use them because it's great. The other thing that I like about this project is this space up here. I use mine to put a needle that I'm in the middle of using. So when I'm binding, it goes there. I also have little straight pins that I stick right in there. And it's great because I used Annie's Soft and Stable. Works perfect. So this is my little bag. This is the first of a number of products or projects that I have lined up using this material. I'm fairly happy with it. I kind of wish I had used this fabric on the inside only because this fabric is so busy. But this was my favorite fabric, so I put it on the outside. Anyhow, just keep that in mind when you're picking out your fabric. I don't know about you, but the older I get, the harder it is to see. And to have all of this busyness behind my pocket makes it a little difficult to see sometimes. So I probably next time will use this as my outside fabric and this is my inside fabric. The only thing I did differently in mine is this Stiff Stuff Firm. I use that, in my handle, okay? Just to give it a little bit more body. It worked out great, and I'll leave a link below to where you can get it. So this is my bag. So if you'd like to see how I put this together, stay tuned because I'll show you how I did. So I just wanted you to know that I won't be sharing any of the cutting instructions or any of the dimensions of anything. I'm just going to show you how I put mine together. And the reason for that is you really should be purchasing the pattern. So Annie works really hard to design great patterns, and I please support her by purchasing her patterns. So this is my little bag, and stay tuned if you'd like to see how I made it. One of the things I love about Annie's patterns is she always has you prepare everything first. So this is one of the first steps, was preparing all of the binding for it. Now if by chance you don't have one of those fancy tools that help you to make binding, this is how I do mine. I start by folding it in half, and then I press it in quarters. So I start by pressing one side, and you can see what I'm doing is I'm gently folding it inside. Then I'm going to gently press it, give it a good steam. Then I'm going to flip it over, and I'll do the other side. So the first thing I did was I got all three of mine ready, pressed them in half, then folded one side in, press that down. Then I go back and fold the second side in. And what that ends up doing is giving it enough time to cool off so that I'm not burning my fingers, because otherwise, believe me, it's hot and I would. So I wanted to give you a chance to see how I go about making my own binding. I'm going to try really hard to show this to you up close. When you sew the binding onto the top of the mesh, I would suggest that you put a foot on that has a full base so that it will hold it down. If you look at the bottom of my foot here, you can see it's got a nice base. This is actually my number 37 foot, and it is my 1/4 inch foot. So I'm going to use that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you where I'm going to line it up. When I put my foot on here, I'm going to line it up so that this edge, let me point to it for you. This edge right here lines right up here, right to this edge, okay? So I'll put my foot down. The other thing I'm going to do is I am going to use my needle down function. And the reason why I'm using that is because if I have to stop along the way, I really want this mesh to stay inside of the binding piece. So here we go. You can see I've used my Wonder Clips to hold it down because that just clamps the 3 layers together. See, we've got we've got 1, 2, 3. So there's 2, 3, there's 5 layers of fabric in total, but there's really 3 layers. So here I go. I'm going to start stitching, And I am holding my threads because I didn't have a plug in it when I started. And if you want to see what the plug's all about, I'll link a video up in the corner so you can see it. So I'm going to take 2 stitches, and then I'm going to hold my back stitch. I'm going to do a little back stitch, and then I'm going to go forward. Whoop, my needle down wasn't down. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is just take out this one clip and put it aside. Then I'm going to keep on stitching. Just really taking my time so that I'm not rushed and, you know, I don't all of a sudden jerk the fabric away so that it doesn't look straight and nice. Okay, I'm going to keep right going to the end. And now I'm going to back stitch again. All right, and now my piece is ready to take off. There we go. And I want you to see what it looks like. Okay. Trim up my ends. So here's my piece. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is take my zipper. This is my zipper. I actually do bulk zippers. So I have these yards and yards and yards of zippers, and I just put my own zips on them. So I'm going to line this up. Now this time I actually have to use a pin to hold it down because I want to make sure that you can't see this. Oh, sorry. I want to make sure that you can't see this part of the zipper through the mesh bag. So see, you can see here's the mesh bag and here's my zipper. And if I lined my zipper all the way up, see, you would see the zip behind it, and I don't want to do that. I don't want it to show. So I'm going to line it up. And I'm going to pin it. So there's one pin. And just being careful to really keep it pretty straight. There's another pin. I did the last one with only 3 pins, so I can probably do it again. Here's my 3rd pin. And again, I'm keeping everything really, really flat. I want it flat. I don't want it moving. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is change my foot out. And I'm going to put a zipper foot on. This is my zipper foot. It's a number 4. I have a Bernina. I'm going to stick that on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my needle so that when I go to stitch, I number 1, don't hit right here because that'll break a needle. Number 2, when I stitch, I want to be really close to here so that it looks nice. Okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap that so that we don't lose that. And now on this one, I'm going to just kind of eyeball it. I'm going to, let me take this off and show it to you so you can see up close. I'm going to take it and I'm just going to have it about right here. Okay? I'm going to be just able to see a little bit of the fabric. Okay? All right. So now here we go. Again, lay my piece nice and flat because we need it flat. We don't want any puckers in our zippers. Right. Now here we go again. Couple stitches forward, and I am going to back tack this. All right. Now I'm going to go forward again. Now I'm not even close to where my head of my pin is, but I'm already going to remove it. Okay. I want it gone out of the way so that all of this continues to lay really, really flat. Okay. Again, I'm getting that pin right out of there right away. And one last pin. Just make sure I'm lined up nice. Nice, nice. Okay, now I can take this out, trim my threads. I know you can't see that. That was not fair of me, but sorry. All right, so I got one more here. All right, so now this is how I am. I got it all sewn, but now look at my back. See, I got this flippy thing here. A little flap. I don't like it. I'm going to get rid of it. How I'm going to get rid of it is I'm going to top stitch right here again. And what that's going to do is that's going to hold it all down on the other side. So now leaving my zipper foot on so that I can see, I'm going to just go back and I'm going to stitch right over it again. Okay. Now this is my very first stitch line where I attached the mesh to the binding. That's the line I'm working on now. Okay. Alrighty. So now I have absolutely stitched one entire thing, and that's what it looks like. So I need to do this on all three of mine, and I will add the zipper pull in a couple minutes. Okay, I'm going to do my third one, and then I will be back to show you my very next step. Okay. All right, I've got my zipper, all of my zippers on all three pieces. And I've laid the top binding on the top of the zipper, and I'm just going to sew that exactly how I sewed this. I'll just do really close just on this side, because when I go to attach it to the bag, I'll attach it on this side of it. That's the next step. The next step in this neat little project is to mark it, and I highly doubt that you can see my markings, but the directions on the pattern are really clear exactly how to do it. So you mark the left side of it, and I use this Wonder Clip, and you draw specific lines on it, and I used my Frixion pen, and I marked on one side, and then it tells you to flip the piece over on long side so that the left remains left. So my left remained left. So there's my little pin. And then I had to draw more lines. Now once you get to this point where you're drawing more lines, you're going to start attaching straps to the fabric. So this is my strap, and my button doesn't exactly go perfectly with it, or my buckle part, but this was my grandmother's, and that's why I'm using it. And I'm okay that it's off a little bit. I think it's really cute. So it tells you to take the slider in with the right side up. So I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to lay it down. So I'm going to remove the pin from the left side, it tells me. And with the seam strap down, I'm going to lay it on the mark that the pattern tells me to lay it on. And so I'm right there. Then I've got some stitching to do here, and the pattern tells you to do it. Now don't be afraid to do it, because you'll be okay. We've got to get through one step at a time, and if you just follow the pattern step by step by step, you'll get it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read my pattern really closely. I'm going to put this down the way it goes. So I want this side of my fabric to be out. I want this busier side to be in. So I'm going to lay this according to what their instructions are telling me. And then I'm going to go ahead and start stitching it all down. Now, if you're at all concerned about how it's going, what you could do is just baste this down. And you're going to baste it right here on your prior stitching line so that they're going to line up really nice. And I would pin it in a couple of places, but what you're going to want to do is remove your pin before you get there so that it has the ability to kind of be flat again. That's the biggest thing with this pattern, is you want it to be flat. So I'm going to get mine all lined up and I'm going to start stitching and then I'll be back. All right, so you can see what I did. I pinned it down. Now I'm going to remove my pin, and what I did was I just stitched right here 1/4 of an inch from or 1/8 of an inch from the edge. My slider's way down here. Now I'm going to keep reading the directions to see where I need to sew for next. I figured out where I need to sew next, so I need to sew from this pin to this pin. So don't be afraid to use something that you're comfortable with to mark your stop and start. So what I'll do is I'll start right here. I'll sew down to here. I'll remove this pin probably when I get about right here. Then I'll stitch across and then back down and then across. So I'm just going to make this stitched long rectangle. And I have put my 1/4 inch foot back on just because I'm most comfortable with that foot. So I'm going to get that stitched down. All right, I've got my piece all attached down. So now it's back to the directions. And as I go through, I'm crossing everything off that I've done so that I can really look at my pattern and know that I've done what I'm supposed to do. Now, I'm not going to put the vinyl back on it. I don't want to do that. I just don't want anything to do with that. So I'm not putting that on. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way down to H, where it tells me how to start attaching the inner zipped mesh pockets to the lining side of the organizer. So that's my next step. I'm going to roll mine up and see how it rolls. Look at this. Now, isn't this just going to be adorable? Look, I can test it out here. Okay, here's my piece. So far, so good. All right, I'm going to now read my directions on how I have to sew the inside mesh pockets to it. So I'm grabbing this and I'm going to grab my mesh pockets and just see what it is that I have to do next, and I'll be back in a few minutes. I want to show you what I've done. My next step, once you get all your mesh down on your bag itself, what you've got to do is get it stabilized again. That's a lot of what you have to do with this, is just get it stabilized. So I'm going to move my strap up out of the way, and what I'm going to do is actually lace it right through here so that I don't lose it and it doesn't move on me. Then the next thing I did was I zipped up all of my zippers. I didn't zip them to the point that they come off, but what I did was I zipped them up so that what happened is this part of the zipper came together the way it's supposed to. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to top stitch right next to the edge all the way around my bag. Okay, so I'll start here, I'll go around and come back up. And then I will be ready for the next step, which I'm not sure what it is yet, but we'll figure that out. I want you to see what I did. When I stitched down this side, remember we've got zippers to deal with. So what I did was I stitched along, I did a couple of back stitches, and then I picked my presser foot up and went to the other side. And then that way, see, I can come back through, I can pick those stitches out on both sides. And then now I can just move my zipper back. Oh, I got a stitch or two there. It'll come. It just takes a little bit of coercing sometimes. don't hesitate to get your seam ripper out and just pick away. Because remember, this is going to be underneath the binding too, so it's not like it's going to be seen any place. But you do what you got to do. You got it. There we go. The reason why you mess with this is because you want your zipper to lay as flat as possible. If when you were sewing, there was a gap, then that's going to pull. If when you were sewing there was a gap, then that's going to pull when you go to close it. So I'd rather wrestle with it for a second to get it loose than have it not the way I want it. I'm going to do this one with my seam ripper since I seem to be picking up my seam ripper so much. So here. Yep. And then you got to come around and also do the back of it. So remember, it's got to open on both sides. So here we go. This is why you always keep your seam ripper next to your sewing, because you never know when you're going to need it. And what it seems to be is it's just a little tight in the beginning. Either that or I'm grabbing the backing fabric. Whoops, one or the other. Undo it first and foremost. Well, this is really turning out to be crud. Okay. Undo it. Done that. Pick those stitches out of there. Where'd my seam ripper go to? Holy cow, I'm just having a horrible time. Alright, so there's that one. And here's this one. Pull those stitches. Alright. They're gone. Perfect. Alright. Now, let's see what we can get done here. Alright, so I'm going to put it back on again. So first I'm going to undo my zip. So my zipper's undone. Then I'm going to take this, I'm going to turn it around. I got to find what I did with it right there. Take your zipper. Feed it in on one side first. Then feed in the second side. And then what you're going to do is hold these two together, and you hold it kind of taut. And you just zip it right on again. See, it's not hard. It just, the first one's the hardest to get going. So now I'm going to take this over to my cutting table, and I'm going to trim off all this excess, making sure that all of my zippers are in the middle so that I don't lose those. All right, I'm all trimmed up. So I've got all my pieces trimmed. My next step is I have to round my corners. So what I did was I just took a large spool, a large thread spool, and I just laid it down like this, and I just drew with a black line. So I am actually going to trim them with my scissors, and then once I've got them trimmed, then it's time to do my binding. Now, she suggests that you don't press your binding, that you just fold it in half and sew it down. I'm going to mess with it a little bit and see how that works, because I've never done that before. I've always pressed it first. So I'm going to mess with it for a minute first and see how it goes. And then depending upon how it goes, I'm either going to come back and show it to you, or I'm going to go press mine first, and then I'll come back and show you. So I'm just getting my corners trimmed. I am going to do it the way she suggested. I've started it out the way she said, and what I'm doing is about every 4 to 6 inches, I'm just going to place a pin in it. And these pins are just wonderful. They are the nicest pins because they're really, really sharp, and they're very fine. So they're a great pin. I'll put a link to them below. So I'm going to do this, and I'll do that the entire way. And then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to actually use my binder clips to attach it to my little stash and dash bag. I'm going to line these up nice. Be careful when you're doing this. Remember, you're working with fabric that's cut on the bias, and you really, really don't want to take a chance of stretching it. And see, it's really stretching. So you want to handle it carefully, and you don't want to pull it. You just want to gently pin it together, and then we'll turn around and come back and actually attach it to the bag so that we can start putting on. We're going to put it on this bag just like we do quilt binding. So it's the exact same process. The only difference is that it is a lot smaller. So we will get all of this put on. And then I think this will be an evening job of doing hand stitching. It won't take me long to do it. And I've got a prior video that shows you exactly how I hand stitch things down. And I'll link to that below too so that you can see it. Okay? And I'm hoping I didn't miss any of the processes of this. You know, with these bags, the big thing on them is making certain that you prepare everything at once. Because once you prepare everything, it doesn't take long to put it together at all. It's the prep that takes time with this project. All right, so now I'm going to grab my bag. And I want to join my binding on the side someplace. I don't want to join it at the top or the bottom. So I'm going to start right, well, for ease of, because of the pins, I'm going to start here. Now, I probably don't want this, so I'm going to start right down, farther down, because see, I've got a seam there, and I'm going to make another seam when I go to put it together. So I don't think I really want it right there. So I'm going to put my binder clips on. As I jiggle the camera on you. Here, we're just going to bring a bunch of them out here. Okay. And I'm just going to go all the way around. I'm going to do a lot of pinning at the corners. Because remember, your corners are your most that you've got to stabilize, and you also have to use the fabric. You want that fabric to kind of gently go right around the circle, or the curve in this instance. Okay, and that's why you cut it on the bias to begin with, so that it will curve gently and nicely. If you didn't cut it on the bias, what would happen is it would not stretch nicely, so you would not have nice flat binding. I'm going to adjust this one again now. Okay. All right. Here we go. So I go searching for binder clips. You know what I think I'm going to do on this corner? So I think I'm going to actually pin it down instead of using the clips. I'm going to pin it right in. Okay. Now, when I sew this down, I'm going to make sure that there's not a pleat right there. It's going to lay flat. I'm going to have to double check it and make sure it does, because I don't want that fold over there. Got quite the mess going on my sewing table. Now I can go back to binder clips. I think when I get to this corner, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a couple pins in it. I'm going to round this corner. And then once I get around this corner, I am actually, I hope you can see me. Once I get around this corner, I'm going to do these pins. And then once I get to the other end, I'm going to actually adjust where it is that I start and end, and I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, I made it around that corner. All right, now you can see I've got a seam right here, and I've got a seam right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to take that one off. So I'm going to start sewing way back here. And then that way, and I'm going to stop sewing right here. And then that way I've got all of this to work with when I go to put my binding so that it's one solid piece, okay? So I'm going to sew around here and around, all the way around, and then back to here and stop, okay? All right, so I have sewn all the way around. I used a little binder clip to keep it all together, all the excess. And I drew my line diagonally, and now I'm going to line this up. And again, I'll link the video that explains to you how to do binding. So I'm going to, my line's a little off there. I'm going to have to fix that. So I'm going to put a pin in there. And see how I just weaved it in and out? I will tell you, doing this will save you a whole bunch of time at the end. Because if you've put this together wrong, like I have, see, I've got it together wrong, it won't lay flat. It'll tell you that you did it wrong. So now let's take it out again, and we'll fix it quickly because it's not hard to fix. And I'm going to flip this around because it was the wrong way, and I'm going to do it like this. And now I match up. Well, almost match up. But I'm going to do it again to make sure that I've got it right this time. Because otherwise, if I sew it, it just leads into a mess. Because now you got to cut it apart. You got to do all kinds of things. Okay, see? Now it's going to lay flat. So that's the right way to do it. So put my binder clip back in. And now I'm going to turn it around. And now I'm just going to put one pin over here to hold it. One pin over here. Then I'm going to sew it diagonally on the line. Okay? All right, I have got it all sewn together. Now, there is something I'm a little concerned about here. I did the binding the way the instructions said, but if you see here, I've got just a little bit of twisting. I think it will come out when I hand stitch it down, but I'm not real happy about that. I'm going to pull, this is the one that I originally made, and look, I don't have any puckering, and I did press this one. So I wonder if it's maybe because I starch things so heavily when I press. I'm just not sure. So anyhow, there's that one, and here's this one, and it's going to roll up just like, whoop, like this. And I'll be able to just stick it in. Just like this. So there's mine. So now my next thing is I obviously have to get it hand sewn down. So that is your stash and dash. Now, one of the other things that I didn't do on here is I did it on this one. I did these little zipper pulls. I'm not doing it on this one. And the reason why is because my zippers are so big. These are zippers that I get that the sides of them, let me pull one for you. I buy these zippers by the yard. And look at how wide the tab is on them. This is where where we stitched it down. And see, it's so nice and wide that they're great when you're sewing. But the other thing is the zipper pulls are so big. And what I'm finding on this one is on the zipper pulls, they are getting in the way every once in a while. So I'm not going to put them on this new one. I know they're really cute, but I'm just going to go without them this time. So here it is. There is your Stash and Dash bag. I really like mine. The only thing I wish I had done differently is I wish I'd put this fabric on the outside instead of on the inside because it's so busy. But I put this fabric on the outside because I just absolutely love this fabric. And no, I'm not making a third one. Well, maybe I will, but I don't think I'm going to. So there we go. Stash and Dash is all done, except for my hand sewing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're having a great week. If you'd like any other particular types of bags made, please do let me know, because I do have a bunch of this fabric all quilted up, ready to go. Please do feel free to leave a comment. If you liked this video, please do give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe. So thank you so much for joining me, and have a great day. Bye.